Hello dear students, today we are going to start class 10th History chapter 4 The Making of a Global World part 2. Students, in this part we will cover introduction, the 19th century 1815 to 1914, a world economy takes shape, a global agricultural economy. Students, let us recall what we have discussed in previous part so that it will be easy for us to understand the further contents. Students, in previous part we have seen the pre-modern world. We have seen that the global world has a long history of trade, of migration, of people in search of work, the movement of capital, and much else. We have seen that globalization is interconnectedness between the countries for different purposes. Earlier phase, the globalization was very difficult, it was time consuming. But nowadays, because of technological development, the world became a village. Now we can cover the long distances in less time. We have also seen that from ancient times, travelers, traders, priests, and pilgrims traveled vast distances for knowledge, opportunity, and spiritual fulfillment or to escape persecution. They carried goods, money, values, skills, ideas, inventions, and even germs and diseases. We have seen the importance of Silk routes. The Silk routes were ancient trade routes. These trade routes were historians have identified several Silk routes over land and by sea, knitting together vast regions of Asia and linking Asia with Europe and northern Africa. The countries were connected with each other through these Silk routes. They are known to have existed since before the Christian era and thrived almost till 15th century. But Chinese pottery also traveled the same route, as did textiles and spices from India and southern and Southeast Asia. In return, precious metals, gold and silver flowed from Europe to Asia. So we have seen the exchange of goods through the Silk route, and we have also seen the exchange of ideas, religion from one country to another country. Early Christian missionaries almost certainly traveled this route to Asia, as did early Muslim preachers a few centuries later. Buddhism emerged from eastern India and spread in several directions through intersecting points on the Silk routes. We have also seen the food travels spaghetti and potato. As travelers and traders introduced new crops to the lands they traveled. Even ready foodstuff in distant parts of the world might share common origins. Students, we have also seen that many of our common foods such as potatoes, soya, groundnuts, maize, tomato, and so on were not known to our ancestors until about 5 centuries ago. Students, these foods were only introduced in Europe and Asia after Christopher Columbus accidentally discovered the vast continent that would later become known as Americas. We have also seen the potato famine, and we discussed about the conquest, disease, and trade. We have seen that America also involved in globalization because of its abundant resources. Those were crops and minerals. We have seen that the Portuguese and Spanish conquest and colonization of America was decisively underway by the mid 16th century. European conquest was not just a result of superior firepower, in that the germs played a vital role. So, we have we have seen the spread of germs because of globalization. Guns could be bought or captured and turned against the invaders, but not diseases such as smallpox, to which the conquerors were mostly immune. So, we discussed over these issues in previous part. Let us start today's content. Students, today we will discuss about the 19th century 1815 to 1914. The world changed profoundly in the 19th century. Economic, social, political, cultural, and technological factors interacted in the complex ways to transform societies and reshape external relations. Students, globalization not only changed the economic sphere, it also affected the political, social, and technological factors. It changed the lives of the people and reshaped external relations. Students, economists identify three types of movements or flows within the international economic exchanges. The first is the flow of trade, which is the 19th century referred largely to trade in goods. Those were cloth or wheat. The second is flow of labor, the migration people in search of employment. The third is the movement of capital for short-term or long-term investments over long distances. So these three flows were closely interwoven and affected people's lives, but deeply now and then ever before. The interconnections could sometimes be broken. For example, labor migration was often more restricted than goods or capitals. Yet it helps us understand 19th century world economy better if we look at the flows together. So, in 19th century, we can see the three kinds of flows, that is flow of trade, flow of labor, and flow of capital, that affected the lives of the people. Their economic, social, and cultural life were affected. It affected the technological factors also, that we'll discuss in this chapter. A world economy takes shape. Students, the world economy affected because of globalization? A good place to start is the changing pattern of food production and consumption in industrial Europe. Traditionally, countries like to be self-sufficient in food, but in 19th century Britain, self-sufficiency in food meant lower living standards and social conflicts. So, students, here we will discuss that why it was considered that self sufficiency in food meant lower living standards and why it became the issue for social conflict. Students, there was immense growth of population of Britain during 18th century. Due to this, the demand of food had increased exponentially. Under pressure from the landed groups, the government restricted the imports of corn. This further aggravated the food prices in Britain. The industrialists and urban dwellers forced the government to abolish the corn laws. So, students, about the corn laws, we will discuss what was corn laws, why was it, what was corn laws, why was it imposed, and why was it abolished, and what was the result of its abolition. So these issues are related to the corn laws, and we will discuss over these issues in this content. Students, corn laws were tariffs and other restrictions on imported food and grains enforced in the UK between 1815 and 1846. The corn in British English denotes the cereal grains including wheat, oats, and barley. They were designed to keep grain prices high to favor domestic producers and represented British mercantilism. The Corn Laws blocked the import of cheap grains, initially by simply forbidding import below a set price, and later by imposing steep import duties, making it too expensive to import grain from abroad, even when food supplies were short. Students, corn laws were imposed because of the pressure of landed groups, because it was beneficial for them. The corn laws enhanced the political power and profits associated with land ownership. The laws raised food prices and the cost of living for the British public and hampered the growth of other British economic sectors such as manufacturing by reducing the disposable income of the British public. So, students, population growth from the 18th century had increased the demand for food grains in Britain. As urban centers expanded and industry grew, the demand for agricultural products went up, pushing up food grain prices under pressure from landed groups. The government also restricted the import of corn. The laws allowing the government to do this were commonly known as the Corn Laws. So students, here we come to know that what was Corn Laws. Simply it was restriction on the import of corn in Britain because of the pressure of landed groups. Now we will see here the impact of Corn Laws. After the Corn Laws were scrapped, food could be imported into Britain more cheaply than it could be produced within the country. British agriculture was unable to compete with imports. Vast areas of land were now left uncultivated, and thousands of men and women were thrown out of the work. Students, as the Corn Law was abolished, now it had given way to import the corn from outside of the country. That created problem for the domestic producers. It was very difficult for them to compete with the imported corn. So they left the lands uncultivated, and because of that, thousands of men and women, those who were working as farm workers, were thrown out of work. They became jobless. They flocked to the cities or migrated overseas. From the mid 19th century, faster industrial growth in Britain also led to higher incomes and therefore more food imports. Students, Corn Laws were abolished because unhappy with the high food prices, industrialists and urban dwellers forced the abolition of the Corn Laws. Because of the pressure of common people, it was abolished. Later we have seen, because of abolition, it was very tough for the domestic producers to compete with the imported corn. They left their land uncultivated, and because of that, thousands of men and women were thrown out of work. They became jobless, and they started migration to the cities or to different countries. Now, as food prices fell, consumption in Britain rose. From the mid 19th century, faster industrial growth in Britain also led to higher incomes and therefore more food imports. Around the world, in Eastern Europe, Russia, America, and Australia, lands were cleared and food production expanded to meet the British demand. As people migrated to America and Australia, they started clearing their lands for food production, that is to expand that is to expand their production. The purpose was to meet the British demand because food prices fell, consumption in Britain rose. To fulfill the demand of British market, America and Australia, they cleared their lands to increase their production. It was not enough merely to clear lands for agriculture. Railways were needed to link the agricultural regions to the ports. Students, as production was more, it was produced to meet the demand of British market. So there was need for the transportation, that is to take these products to ports. For that, railways were needed to link the agricultural regions to the ports. New harbors had to be built and old ones expanded to ship the new cargoes. People had to settle on the lands to bring them under cultivation. This meant building homes and settlements. All these activities in turn required capital and labor. Capital flowed from the financial centers such as London. Students, the demands for labor in places where labor was in short supply, as in America and Australia, led to more migration. As jobs were there, so people they were migrating to these places, that is to get good jobs. Nearly 50 million people emigrated from Europe to America and Australia in the 19th century all over the world. Some 150 million are estimated to have left their homes, crossed oceans, and vast distances over land in search of a better future. A global agricultural economy. Students, by 1890, a global agricultural economy had taken shape, accompanied by complex changes in labor movement pattern, capital flow, ecologies, and technology. Food no longer came from a nearby village or town, but from thousands of miles away. It was not grown by a peasant tilling his own land, but by an agricultural worker, perhaps recently arrived, who was now working on a large farm that only a generation ago had most likely been a forest. It was transported by railway, built for that very purpose, and by ships which were increasingly manned in these decades by low paid workers from Southern Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean. Students, a global agriculture economy had taken shape. Because of this, now food no longer came from nearby village or town. Because of globalization, people were able to take the products from faraway places. Those were not grown in the nearby village or in their own village. It was produced by different farmers. Those were from different countries. It was transported by railway, built for that very purpose. A global agriculture economy had given way to the railways because necessity is the mother of invention. As it was required, so railways were started, that is to transport the products from one country to another country, or that is to take the products to the ports for vast distances. So food and other products food and other products started flowing from far away places. It was no longer grown by a peasant tilling his own land, but by an agriculture worker, perhaps recently arrived, who was now working on a large farm that only a generation ago. Now, infrastructure. Global agriculture economy had changed the infrastructure. Railways were built, that is to take the products from one country to another country. Raw materials. Indian farmers were producing raw cotton and other farm products to British industry. World trade between 1820 and 1914 multiplied about 25 to 40 times. Students, some of this dramatic change, though on a smaller scale, occurred closer home in West Punjab. Here, the British Indian government built a network of irrigation canals to transform semi desert waste into fertile agricultural lands that could grow wheat and cotton for export. Canal colonies, as the areas irrigated by new canals were called, were settled by peasants from other parts of Punjab. Students, Britishers, they wanted to grow more and more agriculture products for the export. They wanted to grow more wheat and cotton for export. For that, they wanted to make the land fertile. The semi desert wastes they wanted to convert into fertile agricultural lands. For that, they started canal colonies. Canals were made for irrigation facilities, and these areas were settled by peasants from other parts of Punjab. Because the farmers of Punjab were good cultivators, so they were settled in these parts, that is to grow more wheat and cotton for export. So that was the purpose of canal colonies. Scrapping of Corn Law. The scrapping of Corn Law laid the foundation of free trade. Now food could be imported or exported into Britain freely. Commercialization of agriculture in colonies. The imperial countries took various steps to commercialize agriculture in their colonies. For example, British government built a network of irrigation canals to transform semi-desert waste land of West Punjab into fertile agricultural land. So here we have seen that. Of course, food is merely an example. A similar story can be told for cotton, the cultivation of it expanded worldwide to feed British textile mills. There was huge demand of Indian cotton to the textile mills in Britain. Or rubber indeed, so rapidly did regional specialization in the production of commodities develop that between 1820 and 1914, world trade is estimated to have multiplied 25 to 40 times. Nearly 60% of this trade comprised primary products, that is, agricultural products such as wheat and cotton, and minerals such as coal. Students, between 1820 to 1914, mostly the agricultural products were exported from India. Those were primary products. Nearly 60% of the trade comprised primary products, that is, agricultural products such as wheat and cotton, and minerals such as coal. So Britishers, they wanted to increase these products so that they can export these products and make good profits. Test your progress. Now students, some questions are given here. Try to answer this. That is to check your understanding. Why did thousands of Europeans flee to America, who forced the government of Britain to abolish corn laws? Why did people migrate from Europe to America and Australia? What factors helped in the development of global agricultural economy? So students, these are some questions. Try to answer these and go through your NCERT book learn the dates, important events, learn new terms. So there is need to once go through your NCERT book for the better understanding of the chapter. Thank you.